With the first pick. With the second pick. With the third pick. With the fourth pick.
Crashing the boards.
Select.
Hello and welcome to Crashing the Boards episode. We'll call it 8.5, Jordan. We debated this last show. We're going to settle on 8.5. We're still wearing the same clothes we were on Wednesday. Maybe that's because we started this recording about 5 seconds after we ended the last one. But I'm going to ask you again, what's going on, man?
Not much has changed since last time, which is probably no news is good news. One of those types of deals. We literally sat here just on Zoom for the 2 days that elapsed between the last time people watched and this time. So we hope that you guys traveled time with us and waited patiently. But man, I'm excited to talk about Keon. I'm excited to talk about Sharife. I think that this is going to be a good episode. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm pretty excited.
Definitely. So as Jordan said, we'll be breaking down Keon Johnson's game as well as Sharife Cooper's. Two very intriguing prospects, two guys that I think there are varying opinions on across the board. Keon's kind of shooting up the draft boards. We'll talk about why soon. If you missed last episode, it came out a couple days ago, episode 8. It features Franz Wagner and Moses Moody. Please check that out and be sure to subscribe and comment, like, whatever it is, share it with your friends. We appreciate all the support as always. And if you want to chat, reach out to one of us or both of us. We're on Twitter. I'm at Evan R. Skilliter. Jordan is at Footnoted, Footennoted. I think I get that right every time. I don't know. I get lost.
Yeah, and it's just I had to change my handle so it was easier to like read and explain, and now it still isn't very easy to read and explain. So it just is what it is.
Dude, it's super easy to read and explain. It's hard to spell. Like it's hard to spell
That's
it
fair.
out
That's
quickly.
fair.
A lot of vowels in there. But
well, and there was a person, not to throw the old owner of Footnoted under the bus, but it was just Foote, like Foote, like my last name, and no, it was J Foote. That's what it was. I was trying to go through like the mental archives of trying to like buy an from somebody, and like every cool one that I wanted when I was changing it, they were like, no, I'm not interested. And I was like, okay, whatever. But I think it would mean more to me than it would to a random person, but that's not always true. I mean, I think for me, like with the whole sports and personal like media branding and all that stuff, the having a catchy or at least something that means something to you is super important. But the last one was the best foot forward, but it was like the best foot and then FWD and like spelling it out and explaining the significance. Like it was just really bad all around. So yeah, one of my editors was like, dude, please change it. Like A, I can't look you up and find you. B, explaining that sucks. Do Footnoted. And I was like, okay, fine. And it was just that ever since.
So I reached out to the person that owns the @Mo, just MO.
Huh.
The dude barely tweets ever. And it was just recently. Remember I told you, so back in this is the very first episode we had. Back in the day, my dad used to call me Mobley for, I looked at a mobile when I was sleeping. Like that's how they put me to sleep. And then it went to Mobley and then it went to Mo. And so I've been trying to get that but I don't even think he gets on Twitter to see it. I can't imagine he would care, right? Yeah. Like if they're not on Twitter, it doesn't matter, but just haven't heard back. So I need to figure out.
There should be like a statute of limitations, like with something like if you like an expiration date with those apps. Yeah. Like if you don't tweet for 2 years or whatever, then you're back out into the stratosphere, and then you could like have an open auction for it or something. Twitter could make money off of that. Just vacate a bunch of ads, sell them to people, have a bidding war. I would have paid $25 or $30 for like the ad that I wanted, or like I'm sure that you'd pay a significant amount for the ad that you want. People would. It'd be good. Maybe do a 50-50 charity thing. Like Twitter, if you're watching this, then let's work.
Also hire both of us.
Yes.
We have great ideas. So anyway, let's get right into the show. We're going to start with Sharife Cooper. We're going to start here. Okay. Sharife is a 5'11", 160-pound point guard. Played 12 games for Auburn. across those 12 games, 20.17 points per game, 4.25 rebounds, 8.08 assists to 4.17 turnovers, 1 steal a game. He shot 39% from the field on 15.3 attempts, 22% from 3 on 4.75 attempts, 82% from the free throw line on 8.5 attempts. Jordan, a lot of people that I follow on Twitter and really respect, I truthfully respect all these people. They're really high on Sharife. They really like him. And I don't hate Sharife, but I'm not as high on him as a lot of these guys are. You tried to talk to me about this before we started the recording, and I cut it off. I said, nope, let's wait. So Jordan and I have not discussed his opinion on Sharife. I've kind of given it mine. Let me hear it. What do you think of Sharife Cooper?
Man, first of all, finding specific measurements for him has been so difficult because I've seen the 5'11", 160. I've seen 6'1", 180. I've also seen 6'3 and a half, 180. And I'm like, I know that the 6'3 and a half or the 6'3 probably aren't true. I believe the 6'1. I think that with shoes, maybe that could be the case. I don't know. And I believe the 180. I don't know the combine measurements or if he has participated in any pre-draft measurement of any sort. I
No,
don't think so.
he
Yeah.
skipped it, which I think is
Yes.
fairly telling, right? He skipped
Exactly.
like if he was 6'1", in my opinion, only my opinion, if he was 6'1", he probably would have let them measure him.
Mm-hmm.
I put 5'11" here because we obviously don't know, but I saw a picture of him next to Bruce Pearl, and Bruce Pearl's like 5'10", 5'11", and they're about the same size.
Comparable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that too. That same exact one. And I was like, man, I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, but then you have to be somewhat accurate. So like the sites that say 6'3", which talking about a few inches of height shouldn't take this long on a podcast. But anyway, it's something to note, but also there's some noteworthy positives about him. And we came off as if we were going to start with question marks. We're going to start with positives because clearly he's one of the best passers in this draft, without a doubt. He's an elite facilitator, extremely accurate with a lot of the passes he makes plays on schedule. The pick and roll potential, I think, is definitely there. He just seems poised at all times. He toys with the defense, little head fakes and kind of nuances that a lot of young point guards don't have in their arsenal as ball handlers. Sees windows open up earlier than a lot of players do. And then his IQ, his feel, his control, kind of intangible type things sometimes. He has the tight handle, smooth dribbler, kind of little bit of wiggle in the half court. I don't know if wiggle is the right term. Usually people use that when you're finishing, but slithery almost. Would that be a better?
That's fair.
Yeah, I think he's slithery, crafty player in the half court, good tempo, doesn't look sped up. Like there's a lot to like about him with the ball in his hand, outside of being a dominant scoring threat. Like if he's looking to set the table, which in the NBA we'll talk about defenses respecting the shot or the drive and kick or whatever. There's a lot to like about him potentially leading a second unit, I think, at least early on, and being a guy that you can trust to do the right thing and be a smart player on the court.
Yes, 100%. Like he is one of the best passers, but one of the best just manipulators of defenses that I've seen in a few drafts, right? Like he is
A floor general.
he's
like
a
through
floor
and through.
general. Exactly. He manipulates them with his eyes. He manipulate I can't even talk, but manipulates the defense with his like stop start ability. You kind of mentioned that too. Like he can change direction so quickly. He plays at a really casual, almost lazy looking pace sometimes, but he's doing it on like it's intentional. He is kind of lulling the defense to sleep, and he can move quickly when he wants to. His eye manipulation is just phenomenal. Like watching him look off defenders. He can make accurate, tough passes with either hand, which is really cool. Like I kind of think it's some maybe even Simon, but a lot of people have talked about his ability to make these Trae Young type passes where he's going left, he has it in his left hand, and without looking, he'll hit the guy in the right corner, or vice versa. Super accurate passer. I really, really like the way he plays. In fact, he assisted on over half of Auburn's points while he was on the floor in those 12 games. So phenomenal floor general. I also have down that he's a good finisher with either hand. He's slithery, if you will, like you said. He can avoid contact, but I also like that he's not afraid of contact. He can finish through a little contact. He's a little guy, but he doesn't seem terribly phased by going up against the trees inside. And he draws fouls. You know what I mean? Like he's been to the line. He got to the line 8.5 times a game, and he hit 82% of those free throws. So if you think about that and how many points that is coming from the line, that's extremely productive.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first question mark I have kind of maybe offers a little bit of hope with that free throw percentage. Can he develop as a shooter? And man, very inefficient. The numbers aren't great. Um, Shot selection not always the best. That just kind of comes with the territory, I guess, with Sharife. His shot doesn't always lift a ton. Like, did you notice that in watching that sometimes he just doesn't get a ton of elevation on his shot?
Well, he doesn't
Um,
jump. I mean, it's
yeah,
like
exactly.
we talked about. I'm sorry to cut
It's
you
kind of
off,
like a
but
set shot
it's kind of
almost.
lazy. Like I mentioned that he looks lazy when he's moving the defense a little bit, and I think it's intentional. But his shot almost just kind of looks
Nonchalant.
nonchalant's a good word for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and defenses don't always respect it. And at the NBA level, that's not going to go away. It might be even more the case. They're going to sag off of him. That's going to make or break his career, I think, is can he learn to shoot? Can he improve as a shooter? He relies on dribble penetration a lot to get his points and get to the rim and finish. Secondly, will he not be as much of a risk taker? Like if he's going to lead a second unit, the turnover rate is going to have to go down. Granted, the assist turnover ratio is basically pretty much 2 to 1, but
Yep.
makes a lot of high risk passes. And that's not always a problem with young guys. I think if anything, it shows that it could be a confidence thing and that he knows he can make all those plays at the NBA level. If I hate to keep saying second unit as if we're putting him in a box, but early on, I really do think that that's a role he could thrive in. He won't have to do stuff like that necessarily. Not a fundamentally sound defender. The size definitely works against him. Can he be smarter versus speed and finesse or even physicality around screens? I notice sometimes not that he has trouble fighting through them, which he probably does because he's a smaller guy and that happens, but also taking better angles and improving his technique there almost, I think. So those two question marks, they're legitimate. And I think that they will ultimately really, he's kind of more of a boomer bust prospect than a lot of players are.
Yep. It's his shooting that has me the most concerned. It's his shooting that makes me not be as high on him as some of those guys I mentioned at the top that I respect. I can see it. I understand why people are so high on him. Everyone loves a point guard or a point god, right? The guy that can just is an unbelievable initiator of offense. But at the NBA level, like you're still going to have to get by the first defender. And that's really tough to do when they're giving you space. So,
Yeah.
look, he was able to shoot in high school. In fact, Simon Rath at Hawks Draft Nerd sent me some video of him shooting in high school, and we had a little discussion through DMs about Sharife, and like, yeah, he could do it in high school. I don't know what happened when he got to Auburn. The form, like we said, it's a bit lazy, and it's super inconsistent. What was it, 22%? Yeah,
Yeah.
22% on threes, still shot 4.75 attempts. He's just going to have to hit consistently. And I will never, ever say this guy will never be able to shoot. No matter what prospect we're talking about, I'll never say a guy can't develop a certain thing because you just don't know. And I hope he can. And I hate to mention his size, but like it's really tough if you're already not a good shooter. It's really tough to develop into a good shooter when you're going to struggle to see the basket over some bigger defenders. So that's the only thing holding me back here. Defensively, like, yeah, he's small. he wasn't very engaged at Auburn. You can make up for being small with just effort, with good
Yeah.
positioning. Like Trey in these playoffs, like he's been switched on to some bigger guys, and he's up for the fight, right? Like he tries. Giannis even tried to take him to the rim, and I think he was a little surprised by Trey's effort, and he did a little like fall away from the basket and missed. I love that clip so much. You got to be tough, and there's nothing to say Sharife can't be a tough defender and work hard. He just didn't show that. He's an athletic guy, so I think he's a capable defender, right? But it's the shooting, man. I'm so nervous. I'd be nervous if I was an NBA team. Now, they're lucky because they get to interview him. They get to
Yeah.
hold workouts with him. Like they get to see what he's all about. We don't. So, NBA teams have way more insight than Jordan and Evan do on crashing the boards with 35 subscribers, right? Like I get it. I'm nervous.
Yeah, I am too. And I put him as like a late first, early second round pick, which I don't always put the draft range. I've been trying to do that in more recent shows just so people have an idea of like my process and stuff like that. The top 10s and the top 15s that people have been like showing me, I think the Ringer has him like 19th or something, which I could see. The passing is fantastic, and the potential, if he can develop as a shooter, is pretty good. Like he can be a good player, he can be a starting point guard in the NBA. But right now, you just can't with the current skill set and size deficiency working together. Like if you have one or the other working against you, that's okay. Like if you're tall but you can't shoot, or your shooting numbers aren't great, or you can develop that, that's okay. But if you're short and you can shoot, then you can work around that. If you're a smaller player and you don't have the greatest shooting prowess, you might need to rework the shot. The efficiency isn't there. Defenses are going to flat out probably not respect it. They're going to go under screens. They're going to sag off, like you said. It makes it very difficult on you. And I really do think, my summary real quick, intelligent point guard who makes precision passes and who's feeling control over the game will be best displayed, again, I think, as the second unit role early on while he develops as a scorer. And that's going to make or break his career. Like it really is. I think that if he can improve the shot, if he can keep being a solid finisher, keep inviting contact, the free throw percentage does offer a little bit of hope. Then you kind of go down the road of, if the set shot continues, is that still going to be the case? Maybe he reworks the shot after a year and it takes a few years for him to become a good shooter. But like historically, that's unlikely. The whole, he just has a lot working against him. And I'd be extremely happy, I think we both would, if he defied the odds and came out firing in the NBA and turned out, we want all of these guys to be fantastic NBA players. So like Evan said, we can turn on Kings versus, I hate
Thunder
throwing
maybe, or
teams under
something
the
like
bus.
that.
Yeah. Somebody in a few years, and see guys that we covered in Crashing the Board and say, hey, we were right or wrong about this. But at the same time, we have to kind of talk about what we see. And there are a lot of good things that we saw from Sharife Cooper, that he can kind of hang his hat on in the NBA. And there are also some things that either just cannot be improved, like his height, that you're just gonna have to work around that. He can bulk up a little bit more. Maybe the 180 is right, and that will help him finish more at the rim. But ultimately, it's the shooting that I think is the number one thing to talk about, whether it's good or bad.
Sure. It's a good summary. My summary, quick one of the most natural playmakers you'll see. He's quick and shifty and can manipulate defenses at an elite level. His potential hinges on his ability to develop his shot and hold his own defensively, but at worst, he should be able to pick apart NBA defenses and create for others. So I'm sorry to all those guys that I respect. I disagree. I shouldn't say I disagree with them. I'm not as excited about Sharife as they are. But I don't blame him. Like if he does develop that shot, like he could be one of the most fun players to watch in the NBA.
Oh, for
Like
sure.
we're having so much fun watching Trey right now. Like Sharife will be that. He'll be
Yeah.
just incredible to watch. So let's move on. We'll talk about a guy that's been shooting up draft boards after a pretty impressive combine. Keon Johnson from Tennessee, 6'5", 6'7" wingspan, 186 pounds. He's a shooting guard with combo guard potential. Played 25 minutes a game for Tennessee. Didn't start very often. 11.33 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 2.48 assists to 2.63 turnovers, 1.1 steals, 44.9% from the field on 9.5 attempts, 27% from three on 1.78 attempts, 70% from the free throw line on 3.74 attempts. Jordan, he was one of, if not the most athletic guy at the combine.
Yeah, dude, he's insane. Like the burst on offense, the explosion, elite explosiveness, like just a fantastic athlete. He attacks the rim so hard. He's very deliberate. He gets going downhill extremely quickly. The first step is among the best I've watched in a long time. Like he has a fantastic first step. I think there's some value to be had with him as a pick and roll ball handler eventually, maybe even immediately, with defenses are going to be so preoccupied with following him as he gets to the rim. They can't concede because if he gets a step on you, he's gone. Like he's just going to go. Could draw fouls in the future. I think that he gets up so high. Like he's just an electric player. He's so much fun to watch. One of the most fun watches I've had so far out of all these guys. And then on the other side, I think he offers good two-way potential. Man, his feet move very quickly. Stronger than his frame suggests. Like what is he, 100 and you said like 85, 86 pounds ish? Or did
Yeah,
he
real
weigh in
G.
heavier?
I didn't look at his measurables from the combine, but I get my stuff from Real GM. It had
Sure.
him at 186. They're usually a
Okay.
little low. But
Yeah.
yeah, 186.
Yeah. So he's stronger than even if he weighed in at 190 or 195. Like he's a very strong built player. Room to still add weight to the frame. Excellent anticipation on passes and or drives. I think that he has decent length to step up on wings of all sizes, I think. And he competes hard. Like I think if you're a good athlete and you have the size to complement that, and you have the effort to complement that, you have the holy trinity of like being a good defender. You have the brain, you have the effort, you have the size and athleticism. You have that potential to do good. So even without mentioning a shot or like a specific facilitating skill, just based on pure athleticism and size, he's going to be an interesting player in the NBA.
Yeah, 100%. So he broke the combine record with a 48-inch vertical leap. For a guy that already stands at 6'5" with a 6'7" wingspan, 48 inches is scary. Gets to the rim in a hurry. He's a wrecking ball. Like, and that becomes, we'll talk about that in question marks too, but like he puts his head down and he gets to the basket. He'll run over anyone in his way, leave you in the dust. You'll be spinning around in circles trying to find him. And he's got good footwork. One thing I really like that bodes well for his potential is that there were times where he would get to the basket really quickly, and then he'd be able to slow down, gather himself, get guys to go past him, a couple different moves in the post, not necessarily post moves, but just a couple different shakes in the post to get a layup. He didn't do that consistently, but I saw it happen, and I really like that as far as his potential as a finisher goes. And I've got all the notes about his defense that you did, man. He stays in front of anyone. Super good, good athlete, going left and right, north and south, whatever it is. He works hard, plays passing lanes. He fights through screens, fights for rebounds. Just a phenomenal defender. Like I think he could make an immediate impact on the defensive end on an NBA team. Question marks. We'll get right to him. Right. His shooting was inconsistent. He got to spots. Obviously, we talked about the athleticism. Like he can get to his spots. He in the mid range, he didn't hit consistently from the mid range, but like he looked good. Like he looked like a good mid range player, almost like he and Kuminga are very different players. But we talked about Kuminga and how he could get to his spots, and he looked fluid and confident when he got to a spot in the mid range or pull up on the 3-point line. Had a low percentage, but still it looked good. And I said it back then, and I'll say it again. I love a guy that looks confident and looks like he can shoot. right? There's maybe some work to do with his mechanics. But in terms of just pure confidence and getting to the spot, the footwork's nice. Um, I think he's got some potential to be a shooter, but it needs to be more consistent, right? He did okay in the mid range, but I'd like to see the shooting improve. The ball handling, it's not crazy tight or quick. He has the quick first step, but as far as the dribbling goes, um, you know, he's got the quickness that makes him scary. So if he can develop the handle, it's going to be even more scary, right?
Yeah, 100%. And some of my first notes, how will the jumper translate? Like, I think the release and the form itself aren't bad, but I don't know if it's like a strength or a balance issue within his lower body that kind of gives me a little bit of pause. The efficiency is a little worrisome, obviously. Struggled to always create his own looks from deep. Granted, the sample size there also needs to be taken into account. Continue to develop the mid-range jumper. Like, he did look comfortable, and that's the word that I wrote down. Like, regardless of the numbers, because we try to watch before we look at the numbers, he looked comfortable. I was like, this guy shoots a pretty good clip for mid-range. Like, he's going to be a good mid-range shooter in the NBA, or at least have that in his bag, and there's value in that. Um, does he need to rework the shot? I don't think so. Does he need to tweak mechanics? Like you said, I think that that's definitely going to be something that will raise his ceiling as a player. And then can he be a reliable playmaker? Which the handle improved. Like the more you watch, you're like, okay, it's getting a little bit tighter, but it's still kind of sloppy. Um, the pick and roll scoring trumped the pick and roll playmaking consistently. Like he kind of gets tunnel vision at times, gets focused on, I'm just going to get going downhill. Granted, I can't really blame him. Like if I was that fast and quick and explosive, I'd want to do that too and go posterize people or get to the rim and draw fouls. Doesn't make a ton of advanced reads. So I think that he's a couple years away from being a reliable 3-point shooter if that happens. And I think he's at least a couple years away from being like a primary facilitator, and we'll talk about that with his ultimate like position slot here in a second.
Yeah. So as far as the jump shot goes, per synergy, again, from inside 17 feet on jumpers, he shot 36.2%, which synergy ranks as average, 41st percentile. From 17 feet to the 3-point line, only shot 16 times, but he was very
Yeah,
good from that range, 74%. And then we talked about the 3-point shooting. It was just average. He was in the 35th percentile there. Um, the playmaking, I think that as Keon continues to get reps and continues to let the game come to him a little more, learns how to use, well, we kind of talked about this already with his burst, like learns how to use that burst, but also play within himself. I think that playmaking will come because he's going to put a ton of pressure on
oh
defenses,
yeah,
right? Like you're going to have to help at the rim because he can get up. You're going to have to, if he develops that shot from the mid
I'll
range,
have
you're
to
going to
close
have to,
out hard.
exactly. So that's going to come. But one of my question marks is that he needs to limit the turnovers. He plays really fast.
Yeah,
Uh, he gets ahead of himself. He'll make bad decisions. He'll run head first into the help defender, which causes issues. But again, like he'll be able to play right away in the NBA because of his defense.
yeah,
We talked about this with someone else. I can't remember who, but he'll be able to get those reps, and I think that's going to aid in his development. That's going to be part of my summary too. Um, yes, he needs to limit the turnovers. He needs to stop playing ahead of himself, but that comes with time. This is a young guy.
yeah, 100%, dude. And I think that, man, just to jump to the range real quick, I think he's a late lottery pick. Like I think that if a team took him in the top 15 based on what he is right now, someone would scratch their head and say, well, all he does is get to the rim and play defense. I'm like, well, man, when you have the building block that you can't really teach the athleticism he has, you can't teach the burst he has, you can improve it over time. Guys like Luca have gotten a little more quick off the dribble from year one to year two and then year two to year three, but no one's ever going to develop the Keon Johnson level of first step, level of elevation. He has that, and he shows enough as a shooter, whether it be mid range or 3-point, and he shows enough as a playmaker to where you justify taking that pick. Like if you're a team that needs someone with a very high ceiling, I think you take him. He has a higher ceiling than people give him credit for. Like I really do think this guy could be good. I have him as a shooting guard with true two-way combo guard potential, and immediately some of the most impressive athleticism in this year's draft class.
Yeah, and my summary is Keon could turn out to be one of the best players in the draft. At worst, he helps you stop your opponent's primary scorer, but gives you little production on the offensive end. However, he has the potential to become a primary scorer and or creator that, and I put hot take alert, could be the centerpiece of an entire franchise. He needs to develop some key offensive areas, but he has that insane athleticism, hustle, and defensive IQ that will help him earn minutes early in his career and speed up the developmental process.
Yeah.
So, and I want to make sure people understand, like, I'm not predicting he's going to be the best player in this draft. I'm just saying that with that athleticism and that effort and that willingness to play defense, he's going to start learning and getting real NBA reps at a young age. And, when he turns 26, 27, 28 years old, who knows what he could be.
Yeah, he has the ceiling. Like certain guys have the floor because they have the intangible things like the leadership and the IQ and stuff like that, or they have the jump shot, or they have the this, or they have the that. Some guys don't have the athleticism, and it's not like he's just an athlete. He has a bunch of other stuff in his game, and he's shown in spurts that he can do different stuff. It's not like a situation where a guy just clearly doesn't have it and he never will. Probably this guy can work on it, and I think improve. And like you said, he's not going to be 26 or 27 for like 7 or 8 more years, which is insane to think about. Like he's still really young. He's a guy that didn't play a ton of minutes, and a guy that I think will be able to, as he gets more minutes at the NBA level, be able to develop that as a player for sure.
Absolutely. So that's it. That's episode. All right. I've decided, Jordan, I'm going to label it episode 9, episode 8.5, whatever. It's our channel. We'll do what we want. It's episode 9. It was Keon Johnson and Sharife Cooper. Again, make sure you check out our other show from this week where we talked about Franz Wagner and Moses Moody. As always, thank you for your support. Jordan, 35, 36 subscribers. Hopefully by the end of this, we're at 50, 100, whatever. Sky's the limit.
Yeah, and then go from there. Like it doesn't have to be just draft stuff. We could do some film breakdowns in the future. We could do anything. Like the world is our oyster, and shout out to the people that have subscribed from the beginning and been supporting. It's been a ton of fun. I think that just the more content we get out, the more conversations we create and have with people, the more they create with us, that it's going to grow. So I'm really excited.
Yep, me too. And as always, as well, if you have other players you want us to discuss, reach out to us. You should find us on Twitter, find us on Instagram, Crashing the Board Show. We don't have a Twitter handle. We just promote with our own. So you can find us each at our Twitter handles, and then tune in next week. Right back here as we break down James Bouknight, Jalen Johnson, Kai Jones, and Zaire Williams. Until next time, stay right, stay real. God bless.
With the 3rd pick. With the 4th pick.
Crashing the boards.
Select